Welcome to the success stories of millionaires. Can you become a millionaire by following our protagonist's formula? Let's find out. He was a bookkeeper's son, a high school dropout who started his career earning 50 cents a day. He entered the oil business when it was a chaotic boom and bust gamble, a free-for-all where fortunes were made and lost in weeks, and wildcatters ruled a landscape of fire and reckless ambition. It made him the richest individual in modern history and a figure of both awe and terror. This is the story of how Rockefeller, against all odds and the fiercely independent spirit of his time, engineered the world's first great trust, a corporate leviathan that defied imagination. He didn't just drill for oil or refine it, he systematized it with a mathematician's precision, creating a vertically integrated empire that redefined the very nature of modern business, capitalism, and corporate power. He proved with brutal clarity that the ultimate path to scale and profitability is not merely in making a superior product, but in relentlessly mastering the entire economic ecosystem in which it exists, from the raw material to the customer's doorstep. This is not just a dusty history of Standard Oil. We are going to decode the exact framework and the visionary business structures that allowed him to transform a volatile, speculative commodity into a stable and predictable global industry. Stay to the end for the 5 key business principles Rockefeller used to architect his empire. Timeless strategies you can analyze, adapt, and apply to build a more efficient and resilient business in today's competitive landscape. If you are fascinated by the original architects of modern industry, the minds that built the frameworks we still operate within today, you're in the right place. We break down the success stories of millionaires. If that sounds valuable, please like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on. Now let's dive into the mind of the man who saw a perfectly ordered machine in a world of chaos. John Davison Rockefeller was born in 1839 in Richford, New York, the son of William Rockefeller, a charismatic traveling con man who sold dubious elixirs, and Eliza Davison, a devout, frugal, and sternly moral Baptist. This contrasting upbringing forged his unique character. From his father, he learned the art of the deal, negotiation, and a certain audacity. From his mother, an unwavering discipline, piety, and the profound belief that waste was a sin. This latter trait would become the psychological engine of his entire empire. But his most formative education, the one that would shape his entire worldview, came not in a classroom, but on the pages of ledgers in his first job as an assistant bookkeeper at the age of 16 for a Cleveland firm called Hewitt & Tuttle. He was a natural, a prodigy of numbers and order. He didn't just record numbers, he communed with them. He would pore over the ledgers with a religious fervor, understanding that every barrel, every rivet, every cent of transportation cost, every fractional interest payment told a story of efficiency or waste. He saw business not as a series of disconnected transactions, but as a complex, interconnected system, a biological organism where tiny, seemingly insignificant inefficiencies, when multiplied across thousands of transactions, represented the stark difference between mediocrity and monumental profit. This bookkeeper's mindset, this obsessive, data-driven focus on cost, systemization, and marginal gains, would become the unshakable bedrock of his entire empire. It was here he famously vowed to himself that he would never be poor, that he would command his financial destiny with absolute certainty. He started his first business partnership in commodities at the remarkably young age of 20, and by the time the first commercially viable oil well was drilled by Edwin Drake in Pennsylvania in 1859, the world was suddenly gripped by oil fever. The world went mad for black gold. Towns sprang up overnight in Pennsylvania, refineries, the crucial key to turning foul-smelling crude into valuable kerosene for lighting, dotted the landscape of Cleveland. Most men saw the glamour, the gushing geysers, and the dizzying risk. Rockefeller, ever the bookkeeper, looked past the frenzy and saw only the staggering inefficiency, the duplicated efforts, the wild price swings, and the catastrophic waste. He saw an industry begging for rationalization. In 1863, Rockefeller and his partners entered the refinery business, but his approach was fundamentally different from the very start. While his competitors were content with their single, often haphazard and messy refineries, viewing them as a necessary part of the gamble, Rockefeller built the Excelsior Works, to be from its inception the largest, most technologically advanced, and ruthlessly efficient in Cleveland. He understood scale as a weapon. He then used this scale as leverage to secure what would become his most controversial and devastating competitive advantage: secret, preferential shipping rates from the railroads. While his competitors paid the published rate, Rockefeller, by guaranteeing huge, consistent volume, received secret rebates, meaning not only did he pay less, but often his competitors' shipments effectively subsidized his own. This was a masterstroke of commercial leverage that few could match. His true genius, however, was not in any single tactic, but in his comprehensive strategy of integration. He didn't just stop at refining. He executed a brilliant, two-pronged attack on the entire industry structure. First, he embarked on a campaign of aggressive, horizontal integration. He began systematically acquiring his competitors with a calm, methodical ruthlessness. He would approach rival refiners with a simple, brutal, and often unrefusable choice: sell to him at a fair, calculated price, or be crushed by his overwhelming economies of scale and his devastating railroad rebates. He was so ruthlessly efficient that he could temporarily lower prices in a specific city or region, operating at a loss until a specific competitor, unable to sustain the price war, went bankrupt. He would then acquire their assets for pennies on the dollar. This campaign of consolidation was not driven by hot-headed anger, but by a cold, strategic vision of a unified industry. Second, and this was his true masterstroke, was his pioneering use of vertical integration. Rockefeller's vision extended far beyond just controlling the refining process. He audaciously moved to control every single facet of the oil business. While his competitors remained content with their single, often haphazard refineries, viewing them as a necessary part of the gamble, Rockefeller's approach was fundamentally different from the very start. His Excelsior Works was conceived not just as another refinery, but as the largest, most technologically advanced, and ruthlessly efficient operation in Cleveland, with scale understood as a primary weapon. This commanding position provided the leverage to secure his most controversial and devastating competitive advantage: secret preferential shipping rates from the railroads. By guaranteeing huge, consistent volume, his company received secret rebates, a masterstroke of commercial strategy that meant not only paying less, but sometimes having his competitors' shipments effectively subsidize his own. He created a perfectly closed loop, a self-sustaining industrial organism. Standard Oil wasn't just in the oil business, it was the oil business from the ground to the consumer's lamp. This eliminated uncertainty, captured profit at every single stage of production, and created an impenetrable fortress. If a railroad ever tried to raise its rates on him, he could simply shift more volume to his own pipelines. If a barrel supplier tried to overcharge, he could use the output from his own timberlands. He turned the entire sprawling, chaotic industry into a single, highly tuned, and immensely profitable machine. To manage this sprawling, complex empire, Rockefeller and his brilliant legal advisor, Samuel Dodd, devised a revolutionary legal structure in 1882, the trust. This was a conceptual leap in corporate organization. They placed the stock certificates of all their diverse and legally separate holdings under the control of a single board of 9 trustees. This ingenious move created a central nervous system for the entire operation, allowing for unprecedented financial coordination, strategic planning, and operational control that was previously impossible. Standard Oil became the prototype, the blueprint, for every large, modern, multinational corporation that followed. It was a masterpiece of administrative architecture. But this total dominance, this very efficiency that built his empire, also bred deep-seated fear, resentment, and a powerful backlash. To his vanquished competitors, he was not a brilliant industrialist, but a predatory monster. To the public, and to pioneering journalists like Ida Tarbell, whose own father's refinery had been crushed by Rockefeller's tactics, he was the archetypal robber baron, a symbol of corporate greed that strangled free competition. Her seminal work, The History of the Standard Oil Company, published in 1904, turned public opinion decisively against him. The U.S. federal government, propelled by this wave of antitrust sentiment, agreed. In a landmark case that would define American capitalism for a century, the Supreme Court ruled in 1911 that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly in restraint of trade and ordered its dissolution into 34 smaller, independent companies. For Rockefeller, who had retired from active management years earlier, this court-ordered breakup was, ironically, arguably the best thing that could have happened to his personal wealth. He retained his massive shareholdings in all the new, independent companies, entities that would become household names like Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron, and as the auto age dawned and gasoline, once a useless byproduct, became the king of fuels, the combined value of these baby standards skyrocketed, making the retired Rockefeller infinitely richer than he had ever been while running the monolithic trust. It was the final, ironic vindication of his long-term vision. So what can we as modern builders and entrepreneurs learn from the man who systematized an entire industry and in the process invented modern corporate strategy? These are the 5 key, timeless strategies you can apply to your own ventures. Number 1, master the system, not just the product. Rockefeller's ultimate product was not kerosene or oil, it was efficiency itself. He understood and then mastered the entire ecosystem: extraction, refining, logistics, distribution, and byproducts. He asked not, how can I make better oil, but how can I make the system of delivering oil unbeatable? Number 2, pursue relentless radical efficiency. His bookkeeper's soul never left him. He knew with mathematical certainty that saving a half-cent per gallon multiplied by millions and millions of gallons amounted to a colossal fortune. As a business person, you should religiously audit your costs, eliminate redundant processes, and understand that small, marginal gains, when consistently applied and scaled, are what create massive, unassailable profits. Number 3, leverage scale for ultimate competitive advantage. By consolidating the fragmented refinery industry, Rockefeller achieved economies of scale that were simply impossible for smaller, disconnected players. This massive scale allowed him to lower his per-unit costs, invest in superior proprietary technology, and wield immense bargaining power with suppliers and transporters. Number 4, control your critical path. His strategy of vertical integration was, at its core, about controlling his own destiny. He refused to be at the mercy of railroads, volatile suppliers, or unpredictable distributors. He identified the single most critical components to his business's survival and profitability, his railroads, and he brought them in-house. You must do the same. Identify the 1 or 2 things that, if they were taken away or became unreliable, would cripple your business. Then, ask yourself strategically, how can I bring more of that critical path under my direct control? How can I reduce my dependency on external, potentially hostile or unreliable forces? 5. Embrace a century-long vision over short-term gain. While others in the Pennsylvania oil rush were chasing the next gusher and the quick, spectacular strike, Rockefeller was building a machine designed to last a century. He consistently sacrificed immediate, flashy profits for long-term, stable, and total dominance. He invested in infrastructure and technology that wouldn't pay off for years, always playing the longest game in the room. These 5 strategies created the blueprint for modern corporate strategy and can provide a powerful, analytical lens through which to view, stress test, and fundamentally strengthen your own business. To execute these strategies effectively in the modern world, you need the right systems. Whether you sell digital or physical products, most entrepreneurs waste time juggling separate tools for their website, marketing, and sales. The solution is Go High Level, an all-in-one marketing and CRM system that lets you run your entire business, funnels, email, SMS campaigns, AI agents, and social media scheduling. You can even manage your client communication from a single portal on your phone. If you are ready to systemize your growth and build a business that scales, check out Go High Level. You can find my link for a trial in the description below. The story of John D Rockefeller is a profound testament to the transcendent power of systemization over speculation, of discipline over disorder. He showed the world that with a disciplined, analytical mind, a fanatical focus on efficiency, and the strategic courage to build an integrated, self-reinforcing system, you can not only dominate a market, but define its future for generations. If you found this deep dive into the roots of industrial strategy valuable, please watch our next video on the success stories of millionaires. Thank you for watching. Remember, build not just for today, but for the century.